Welcome to Infant Nutrition. Today we will be talking about how to feed infants. Will you please make sure that you follow along the PowerPoint, as it's easier for me to upload information through YouTube. So I will be using the voice on YouTube here while following along the PowerPoints that are uploaded on Canvas. So let's go ahead and begin. So during an infant's life, there are dramatic changes in the first year of life. Their torso grows longer and fat increases. Those of you who have had kids, you know how quickly their weight triples. It triples in the first year. So if your baby was born 5 pounds, they're going to be about 15 pounds at the end of that first year. They also increase their length by about 50%. So you can see that these babies are rapidly growing, which of course is going to have a profound impact on their nutritional needs. In that first year, the baby is born with no head control, and by the end of the first year, they're able to pull up, stand, and possibly even walk depending on how quickly they develop. At the beginning, they only have a reflex suck, so they can really only suck, let's say, a nipple or the tip of a bottle. And at the end of the first year, they should be eating finger foods and being able to use sippy cups. Milk only, so we're talking about human milk or formula in the beginning part of their life. And then by that end of the first year, they're having a variety of food and beverages. So you can see all over the board, these infants are developing throughout that first year significantly. Birth outcomes can determine the health of the infant. So one of the biggest areas that the public health industry has been working on is the infant mortality rate. Infant and mother mortality rate really rate how healthy a country is overall. So that newborn weight is a key outcome to measure the health of the baby. Ultimately, we want the baby to be born full term. Anything full term is considered 37 to 42 weeks. Anything under 37 weeks, it's considered premature. And we really want those babies to reach full term because they're still developing their organs until that 37-week gestation. Babies are typically born around 5 to 8 pounds. So 5.5-ish to 8.5 pounds is your typical normal birth weight. However, there are complications such as gestational diabetes. Gestational diabetes is when the mother has diabetes during pregnancy. If it is uncontrolled, this could ultimately result in a macrocytic birth weight. What that means is that the baby is very large and weighs a lot. However, their organs are not fully developed. And this is due to that chronic high blood sugar of the mom is not controlled. Therefore, there are complications for the baby. So you can see that this baby may be born 9-10 pounds, which is outside of that normal healthy weight. So that to determine the health of the newborn, we really want them to be within that 5.5 to 8.5 pound range. Their length is also another factor. So they typically are 18.5 to 21.5 inches. And in 2013, 89% of births were full term. So that's great. That means that we have a pretty healthy population of infants. So infant development. Interestingly, the CNS, or the central nervous system, is immature at birth. So our central nervous system is our brain and spinal cord. So that's why we have to be so careful with infants and how we properly hold their necks, right? They rely upon reflexes. So those three are the following. So rooting. Rooting is anytime something is touched on the baby's cheek, that baby goes to search for it. So they're searching for, let's say, a nipple because that's where they know that they're going to be getting that milk from. So please pause this YouTube video and click on that other video within your PowerPoint to watch a sample of what rooting is. Babies can also suck. So again, they're going to be sucking that nipple or a bottle if mom is not breastfeeding. And they are able to coordinate breathing and swallowing. So these are kind of the most what they rely on in this early stages because they haven't fully developed everything yet. So their digestive system, a lot of people don't realize how important the digestive system is. And it takes 6 months to mature that digestive system. But at birth, babies can digest fat, proteins, and sugars. They can also absorb all three of these nutrients. So if you remember, proteins break down to amino acids, and that's what that AA abbreviation is. And those simple sugars, remember, are our monosaccharides. That means the gut is functional, but there are a decreased level of digestive enzymes. An example here is that they're not going to have a lot of those enzymes present at birth because they have to develop them over time. So our body, as foods get introduced, our bodies build up these enzymes. We can also downregulate them or basically get rid of these enzymes. An example here, not talking about infants, but us as adults or even kids, let's say we stop drinking cow's milk. So if we stop drinking cow's milk for, let's say, a year, and then we decide we want to start drinking it again, once we reintroduce that cow's milk, we no longer have that enzyme to break it down, which is lactase. So those people who are lactose intolerant lack the enzyme lactase. Lactase helps break down lactose. So lactose is the sugar found in cow's milk or dairy in general. So if we don't eat milk for an entire year, cow's milk, our body is going to stop making that enzyme because our bodies are highly efficient, and why is it going to continue to make this enzyme if it's not consuming that particular sugar? So these babies still need to develop all of these enzymes. Along with their brain, it is less organized, but they still are able to root and suck and swallow and breathe. Those are kind of those basic primal what they have in order to survive so they can drink the mom's milk or formula. So when we look at the stomach of a baby can only hold about 10 to 20 milliliters. So those of you with kids know how often you have to feed the infants, and that's because their tummies are so tiny, and they require the most calories out of any lifespan per body weight. So 10 to 20 milliliters, just to give you a little bit of an idea, is only about 2 teaspoons. So you can see how tiny their tummies are. An example of what size it would be on day 1 is about, or in their first early stages, is about the size of a marble. So that's how tiny these babies' tummies are. And by day, later in the month, their tummies are about the size of a ping pong ball. So at 12 months of age, they can hold up to 200 milliliters of fluid. So you can see that there's a significant increase in their organ size. Protein is essential for the infant, but it's not their primary nutrient that they need. They digest less per hour than an adult, so they don't need as much protein. However, fat is important, and they absorb less of it, however, because they are burning it so quickly, because their bodies are growing so fast. Carbohydrates are digested by 32 weeks gestation and complex by 6 to 12 months. So that's why we don't introduce solid foods until about 6 months, because their digestive system doesn't have that ability to break down the complex carbohydrates. Their kidney function is also immature until about 5 months old. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but their kidney function is one of the main reasons why you are not supposed to have cow's milk during your first year of life. So take a moment to pause here and figure out how do you know if your infant is getting enough calories? Now that you have thought about how you can determine how many calories your infant is getting, move to the next slide where you will see a growth chart. Now, what exactly is a growth chart? You're basically going to be plotting the child based off of their age and then finding out where they fall for their weight and their height. This is going to determine which percentile they're in. So what this means is out of 100 people, if they fall within the 50th percentile, that means they're about in the middle of that means 49 are below them and 48 are above them, or vice versa. They're in the middle. Now, this doesn't mean that they're average, right? So we can just, being in the certain percentiles doesn't mean good or bad. We really just want to compare them to themselves. So this is how we determine if they're getting enough calories. We don't want to see a significant drop off of the linear graph. We want to see a nice steady incline. So when you're looking at this growth chart, you can see that the years are on the y-axis or on the bottom. And you can see there's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, etc. And then you'll see on the left-hand column on the x-axis weight and length. So if you're going to plot this first one, I want you to practice. Go to the next slide and practice with this case study for Carly, who's 3 months old, and then Sammy, who's 6 months old. So take a moment right now and pause this YouTube video, chart them, and then we'll come back and see if you got them correct. So really quickly, I'm going to tell you how to chart at least one of them. So Carly is 3 months old, so we would find 3 months on the bottom, and she weighs 10.5 pounds. So I'm going to go over to the right to 3 months, and then I'm going to follow that line up until it meets that 10.5 pounds, all right? Now, the graphs that kind of go up and curve, that's the line that you're going to follow up and see which percentile she falls under. Okay, so at 3 months and 10.5 pounds, she falls about on the 25th percentile. So now try to chart those other 3 numbers and give me a second, or pause this and then play it and I'll have the answers for you.